Then I'll start sounding smart and then we'll keep on coming back here. Woo. So, basically, what happened at the end of the last chapter is that Jacob and Joseph got reunited, and now Jacob's family is going to kind of settle down in Egypt into Goshen. So I am hoping, even though we started a little bit late today, I'm still hoping that we can finish 2 chapters today, chapter 47 and 48. 47 should go pretty quickly, and then we might have to spend a little time on 48. Right? So Joseph went in and told Pharaoh, "My father and my brothers with their flocks and herds and all that they possess have come from the land of Canaan. They are now in the land of Goshen." And from among his brothers he took 5 men and presented them to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to his brothers, "What is your occupation?" And they said to Pharaoh, "Your servants are shepherds, as our fathers were." They said to Pharaoh, "We have come to sojourn in the land, for there is no pasture for your servants' flocks. For the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. And now please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen." Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best of the land. Let them settle in the land of Goshen, and if you know any able men among them, put them in charge of my livestock." Okay? Family's being taken care of.
And they're going to be put in charge of they're being put in charge of the livestock for Pharaoh, but I think it's keeping them out of too much amongst the Egyptians, out of Pharaoh's sight,
Why would that need to happen?
Well,
To keep them safe and
not getting their.
and to keep the Egyptians happy. Why does that keep the Egyptians happy?
Because they're coming new into town and they're being favored because they're related.
Okay, so we've got this like socio problem. We have a religious thing with them being kept safe by God in Goshen. We also have already read in previous chapters that the shepherding that they're doing is an abomination to the Egyptians. The Egyptians don't like shepherds. Why not?
They smell.
They smell? Why? What else?
It's kind of a low-class occupation. There was a strict class system.
Okay, it's probably less about the smell and the socioeconomic status of shepherds. It's probably going to have more to do with the Egyptian religion and their multiple gods and how what do shepherds do? They raise cattle to kill them, right? Which is kind of what your point was before. And so that's the part to the Egyptians that was not, they were going to eat the meat, but they didn't want the slaughter, right? So we've got multiple layers to this, why they need to be in Goshen. In this particular chapter, we're concerned about Goshen being the best of the land of Egypt, which is really good because Egypt is the most powerful civilization on the face of the earth at this time. And so they have the best land, the best food, the best protection out of any other people in the entire world. This is really, really good. Okay? Especially because the famine is so severe. Okay? The Hebrew word for severe is heavy. So it was a heavy famine. It was a powerful famine.
7-year drought, right?
7-year drought. Severe. Okay?
You're talking sheep here, not cattle, right?
Correct. Yep. Okay, so, okay. Then Joseph brought in Jacob and his father and stood him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, "How many are the days of the years of your life?" And Jacob said to Pharaoh, "The days of the years of my sojourning are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their sojourning. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and then Joseph settled his father and his brothers, and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, and the best of the land in the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph provided his father, his brothers, and all of his father's household with food according to the number of their dependents.
So Ramses, when I hear that name, I think opposite. I don't, the tales that I heard are that he's a negative aspect. Is that true, or?
Can you be more specific in your question? I think you're heading in a good direction. I just don't understand.
He doesn't believe in God.
You're talking about the Pharaoh Ramses.
Right.
Right? Okay. So, what I think you're saying is that you are referring specifically to Ramses II, who was a pharaoh in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It is probably what is mentioned here in this chapter that we just read, the city of Ramses or the land of Ramses, does not refer to Ramses II.
Okay.
It's either going to be Ramses I, or Ramses means something specific in Egyptian, and the land was called that.
What does
Okay?
Ramses stand for?
I knew you were going to ask me. What verse is that in?
It is verse 11.
I don't have it written down in my notes.
Okay.
But, so, we, it's good and bad. And we're going to talk about this, especially when we get into Exodus chapter 1. So I'm going to say this again in a couple weeks, okay? We all know the tale of the Ten Commandments, right?
Mhm.
Cecil B. DeMille, right? We've seen it, at least 30 times in our lifetime, right? Like most of you, when that came out in the 50s,
Yes.
that movie, most of you were born in the
Easy.
50s, 40s. So you've known that movie your entire life.
Yeah.
Okay, so when he made that movie, he did a lot of research, and some of that research had never been done before, and he was actually like a trailblazer in trying to figure out what exactly happened in the first 20 chapters of Exodus. So he did a really, really good job. Some of the things that he proposed and that he demonstrated in the movie show us the best that we can possibly know, and a lot of scholars think that it's actually really wrong. Okay? So I just hear, I don't remember her name, the Egyptian princess, right? Moses, right? Like you can hear that, and then also like how she just disdained Ramses, right? Because the Egyptian pharaoh's name was Ramses.
Mhm.
And sometimes scholars say, yeah, we think Ramses II is actually probably the pharaoh that worked with the Egyptians and dealt with the 10 plagues and this, that, and the other thing, okay? There's a lot of pretty good scholarship that says it's probably not Ramses II. So when I'm going to show you a movie when we get done with Genesis that helps us to try to see the two sides of the argument, that either it is Ramses II or it actually is a little bit further down the line, and it would be impossible that it would be Ramses II, okay? So, it's probably a little bit more information than what you were asking for, but the land of Ramses, we know for certain, is in the Nile Delta, okay? So, I don't think anyone disputes that, whichever side of the column you're on, okay? So, basically, what this chapter is doing is saying that Ramses, the land of Ramses is the land of Goshen, and that we can locate that in the Nile Delta somewhere, probably on the east side of the Nile Delta, which means that it's the side that's closest to Canaan. Okay,
Ramses II died 1213 BC.
okay.
It's like, so the timeline,
The timeline, I don't wanna get too far into this, cause it's a rabbit hole. The Bible is very clear that the Israelites were in bondage for 400 years in Egypt, okay? Unfortunately, we don't have hardly any evidence that the Israelites were actually in Egypt, okay? So it's hard to do any kind of dating to figure out when this happened and what pharaoh they were dealing with. And the other problem is that the biblical timing does not match the Egyptian timing.
yeah.
So when you count back the years in the Bible, it tells you it's pretty much gonna be around this 50-year period.
They probably had their own calendar.
And they had their separate calendar, which didn't always match the Hebrew calendar, right? So you can see how it gets pretty confusing pretty quickly, okay? So the movie that I'm gonna show you it's actually pretty long, and it does a really good job of delineating how the different calendars and the different timelines work, and it shows you on the same timeline where people think all of this stuff happened, okay? So that's all I wanna say about it, but that does answer your question, correct?
It does.
Yeah, okay. So we'll leave the question about the Egyptian pharaohs until after Genesis, because we're gonna tackle that right away in Exodus chapter 1. Okay? Good. So like, it seems like in the last chapter, in chapter 46, Joseph told his brothers exactly what to say to Pharaoh. Now in chapter 47, they say the same thing that Joseph told them to say to Pharaoh. And now, in this section 7 through 12, Joseph brings in his father, it appears separately, to talk to Pharaoh. It seems like Jacob is a little bit of a control freak. You have to say this, you can't come in, I'm only taking 5 of you, the rest of you have to wait. Do this, don't do this, say this, don't say that. How do we feel about that? Is it accurate to call him a control freak? Or on another side of the coin?
And this is like custom, he knows how things are gonna be accepted or taken, you don't wanna come in with the whole entire family thing. Here's your 5 best guys.
Guns blazing, so to say.
You know,
Right? Okay, so either that or he's perceptive and he knows what's going to work with Pharaoh because he's worked with him for a couple of years already, right? He's got a little bit more experience, so he can work with that. What would be another explanation to it?
God's in control.
God's in control of it, and so good, all right? So what would be another explanation for it? We could say a little bit more positively that Joseph is just being a good manager, right? A shrewd, careful, wise manager, which is kind of what he's demonstrated so far by organizing all of the grain and telling Pharaoh exactly what to do and how to do it, right? So this fits in very well with what we know so far about Joseph. But it also shows a little bit, we want to say the manipulation, like Jacob. He's not tricking anybody, but he's definitely playing the puppeteer to make everything work out the way that he wants it to. Okay? So you can see two sides of the argument there. All right. Anybody want to talk about the years? The number
7,
in verse 9?
it is 130.
130 years is how old he is. How does that jive with the other numbers in Genesis?
Less so far.
Well, it's less than Noah. It's less than,
Methuselah.
well, everything. It's less than
Isaac and
Abraham and Enoch and Adam and Seth. And so far, like, the life lived is going down. And he says that. It's been less than my fathers in the days of their sojourning. Okay? But do you remember from chapter 10, or maybe it was chapter 5, I don't remember, the number that men are supposed to live? The new number?
120.
It's 120. Okay? And here we have Jacob saying that he's lived longer than the normal period, but it's still less than. Okay? So we see in that number, in what we remember from Genesis, that the theme of death is continuing. Right? The years are getting less, but Jacob is still blessed by having more years than what is supposed to happen. Okay? So we have that blessing, but we also have the death on the flip side of that.
he interprets it as few and evil have been his days.
Well, and that word evil, it actually is evil. It says, my days are evil. Okay? So, I mean, let's think about Jacob's life for a minute.
A lot of hardship.
He's had a lot of hardship, and especially in the past 6 chapters, where he's been mourning the loss of his favorite son, Joseph. And every time he talks, he basically says, well, why don't I just die and go to Sheol? Because there's no other point, right? So Jacob he's had a hard go. He got a rough roll of the dice, right? And yet, now at the end, he is probably the most protected person in all of history
Well tended to.
in this moment.
And he's
right?
well tended to. He's got
He's
food.
well tended to,
He's got food.
well blessed by God. Okay? And sometimes I think for us, when we try to make this practical, right, we only see the blessing in hindsight. We only see the blessing once all the hardship is over. Right?
And Jacob never learns as to what really happened to Joseph.
The Genesis never tells us that Jacob actually learns the truth. So that's a really interesting point. What do we think?
Wouldn't he say, what happened to you? Why are you in Egypt? You know, how'd you get here? All those things. I
Yeah,
thought you were killed by animals.
right.
And
Why
spoiled
didn't,
his brothers.
if you ran away, why didn't you come home?
Or
Right.
send word or something.
Yeah. If you've been in power this long,
I'd ask.
you could have sent a messenger.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be an important one, right? One that Pharaoh's not going to miss. Send them up to Jacob and be like, hey, Dad, by the way,
I'm okay.
I'm alive. Ah. Right? We kind of want to put that on Joseph
Yeah.
for not trying to connect with his family again, but that never seems to be a problem for Jacob or Joseph in the narrative.
Weird.
That's weird, right?
We didn't have cell phones back
You
then.
don't have cell phones, you're not gonna send a quick text, there's no Facebook check-in, oh hey, I'm alright, I made it through the slavery. Right?
But he would have to tell on his brother.
So he would have to tell on his brothers, that he just made up with
Yeah.
and forgave because he said that God had planned all of this, it wasn't you, don't worry about it. Right? So, do we think that Jacob did actually find out the truth? What's the phrase?
We don't know.
Ignorance is bliss. Right? And the older I get, the more I realize that ignorance is actually bliss. Right? Because the more you know, the more you have to deal with. Right? That's true with everything.
Yes,
Right? I mean, you don't even, I think it's more obvious with politics, right? The more you know, the more you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's even going on, right? But I think that even with family secrets, right? It's better for you to maybe not know all of those family secrets and let them die with the people that were trying to keep them, even though those secrets help us understand why people did certain things that maybe hurt us or other people, but that does not usually help us love them, right? So ignorance in your family is also bliss. Ignorance in the church, I don't know about that. I don't like that because that makes it seem like there's clandestine things that are going on, and that's not what a church is supposed to do, right? So ignorance in, I don't know, what else? I don't know. Is ignorance actually bliss?
Yeah.
I think
What you don't know
usually,
won't hurt you.
what you don't know,
It's,
you're on a need to know basis, right?
as an adult, they tell you the stories you never knew.
Yeah.
Which
Oh.
grows and becomes a teenager.
With your kids, right? Oh yeah, like,
Reveal what
and,
really, really good.
yeah, because I think that now that I'm over 40,
You poor thing.
I know, right? There's times when I'm with my parents, right? And then they'll ask a question or it'll make me remember something, right? And I tell them a story. I had no idea. You know what I mean? And that, I think I'm at that age that I'm old enough that I can start to say those things. Because when I was 20, I wasn't old enough yet, right? I was still too much of a kid, right? And so, but you did the same thing as a kid, right? You got those stories that your parents never knew that you ran off and did this afternoon in a building you weren't supposed to be in or something like that, right? Just exploring. So I think that's a little part of growing up. That's part of our natural development of including our own independence and having a time
Or
that
protecting
ours.
yourself, right? Because some of those things were mistakes.
Right. Well, I mean, you don't want other people to know about them, but I was thinking more even on the positive side of just like, you need your own autonomy. And that's how you are able to develop that in a short amount of time, where you had 3 hours that no one could account for you.
Well,
Right.
like nowadays, there's more that kids can get into
Uh-huh.
than what there were back when we were kids.
Because when you were kids, what getting into was you exploring the barn, right? Like there wasn't, you knew not to touch the rusted metal.
You didn't
So
have-
how were you gonna get hurt? You know what I mean?
and like now, we have these chemicals and they just, oh, there's a party.
Oh, there's a party. Let me go over there.
Brent.
Oh, there's this going on.
They just search them out.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I want you to listen.
All right. So to answer your question, I don't think that Jacob ever found out what really happened to Joseph. And I think that Jacob was actually okay with that. I think that he was just happy that he was in Joseph's presence again. And that was all that mattered to him. Okay? Alright, here we go. Joseph and the famine. Verse 13. Now there was no food in all the land, for the famine was very heavy, severe, right? So that the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan languished by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, in exchange for the grain that they had bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when the money was all spent in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, and all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, "Give us food. Why should we die before your eyes? For our money is gone." And Joseph answered, "Give your livestock, and I will give you food in exchange for your livestock, if your money is gone." So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them food in exchange for the horses, the flocks, the herds, and the donkeys. He supplied them with food in exchange for all their livestock that year. And when the year was ended, they came to him the following year and said to him, "We will not hide from my lord, or that all of our money is spent. The herds of livestock are my lord's. There is nothing left in the sight of my lord but our bodies and our land. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for food, and we with our land will be servants to Pharaoh. And give us seed that we may live and not die, and that the land may not be desolate." Let's do the next paragraph too, because that'll help explain it. So Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for all the Egyptians sold their fields, because the famine was severe on them, and the land became Pharaoh's. As for the people, he made servants of them, slaves in Hebrew, from one end of Egypt to the other. Only the land of priests he did not buy. For the priests had a fixed allowance from Pharaoh, and lived on the allowance that Pharaoh gave them. Therefore they did not sell their land.
Pharaoh became very wealthy during the famine.
The most. You can't get more wealthy.
I mean, he owns everything because
He literally owns everything.
including the people.
Including the people themselves. The Hebrew is really interesting when it talks about them selling their bodies. It's not the usual word for person. The normal word for person is nefesh, which means soul, the inner part of yourself, right? In this case, it doesn't use nefesh. It uses another word that is normally used for corpse. So it's literally their flesh and their bones,
Their physical
their
body.
physical bodies, they are selling to Pharaoh.
They became slaves.
They became slaves, right?
But they didn't sell their soul, that's still,
Well, that belongs to Ra, right? The Egyptian god,
so
right?
they think.
So they think. Well, I mean, it's just another version of the devil. So yeah, go ahead.
So just to back up a little bit, because
Yes, please do.
I need to kind
Yeah,
of
we need to
picture
do that, right?
when Joseph tells Pharaoh that this is going to happen. We have 7 great years, 7 really bad years. Let's pack away for the first 7, so that we have food to give to the people.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they having to pay for something that they've contributed to that should be theirs to begin with? And wasn't it that was the purpose? That was what was told to them, that they would get that food?
No, not
No.
necessarily. Okay, so I don't remember which chapter it's in.
I mean, I understood the ones that did not contribute
yeah.
to have to pay.
So I just want to, when we talked about the 4/5, do you remember that? I don't remember what chapter that's in.
It's coming up in the next paragraph.
No. Is it?
Yeah, harvest field in the fifth Pharaoh. Chapter-
Oh, okay. So, I really thought it was before. Well, okay, so let's read the next paragraph then too. So, verse 23. Then Joseph said to the people, "Behold, I have this day bought you and your land for Pharaoh. Now here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And at the harvest you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh, and 4/5 shall be your own. as seed for the field and the food for yourselves and your households, and as a food for your little ones. And they said, you have saved our lives. May it please my Lord. We will be servants to Pharaoh. So Joseph made a statute concerning the land of Egypt, and it stands to this day, that Pharaoh should have 1/5, and the land of the priests alone did not become the Pharaoh's. So,
Sure.
yes,
Yeah, sure.
he has gained everything for Pharaoh, right? You can't deny that. But, now that they are the Pharaoh's slaves, they are going to sow and reap for the Pharaoh, but they get to keep 4/5. They get to keep 80% of what they do, which is actually pretty generous,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's like sharecropping rather than slavery, flat out straight slavery. If they were slaves, they would have to get everything.
Everything. So, can you explain sharecropping for?
Well, it's
Gosh, we talked about that in history with the serfs and everything, but I don't remember that.
And, it started out in medieval times, feudal times, where you worked for the lord of the manor,
Right?
and you gave a certain portion to support,
Him
Yeah.
and his
and
household.
then you kept a portion.
Yeah.
It was popular after the Civil War, when the slaves were freed, they didn't have money to buy their own land, they worked other people's land, gave them a portion, a share, and then they kept a portion.
Well, and I mean,
It was kind of a
Yeah,
step
but, I
up
mean-
to-
is that even still in practice today?
Well, people, they rent the land.
You rent your land, and that's kind of your share that you get. Instead of getting the crop at the end of the year, you're just getting the money up front, right? I mean, it's the same concept, isn't it?
Some people rent their land just to get enough of a share to pay for their property taxes.
Right, right.
And, make a mortgage payment. They
Right.
don't wanna actively farm their land.
Right.
Still
So,
working.
so I think the ultimate question when we think about this chapter is, how do we feel about what Joseph's doing? Is Joseph doing the right thing? In other words, is Joseph acting ethically?
He could act a lot worse than what he's doing.
He could be worse than what he has done. He could also do a lot better
Right.
than taking all of their money, all of their livestock, all of their land, and themselves into what Pharaoh has. All to, and what does it say?
But they realized that their lives had been saved.
But they still praise Joseph.
Yeah.
Right? Even in the midst of all of this, what we would consider travesty, we would consider this crimes against humanity.
There's no control of the famine.
There's no control over the famine, but it seems like Joseph has. Because he had the dreams, right? God provided him with the dream in order to know what to tell Pharaoh so that they could prepare in the 7 good years so they could handle the 7 bad years. Right? So they consider Joseph, and I love that word because it's the same in Hebrew, Savior. They consider Joseph to be their Savior. And he has, to a certain extent.
And he could have let them die.
He could have said, "You got nothing, I don't care about you." Right? Now, if he did that, what position would Pharaoh be in? What's a king without a country?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right? Like, well, I mean, every man has said that once in their life, right? I am the king of my domain.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if your domain consists of 1/16 of an acre.
Then they look around and see if the white bird or
Right. But like if you don't own much, if you own a shack on the side of the road, right? You're the king of the show. Good job. Good for you, right? So Pharaoh, I am the king. I am the Pharaoh of this great land, but we have no people in it.
King of the junk
They all died because of the famine. It's not going to look good, right? So in this chapter, Pharaoh has increased by leaps and bounds the most he possibly can by acquiring the wealth, the land, the people, the livestock. Now, what most commentators don't talk about, who's in charge of the livestock?
Joseph's family.
Joseph's family.
Yeah.
Most people forget that part. Okay? So now Joseph is the second in command in the entire country, and Joseph's brothers are in charge of the meat supply, which is a pretty big deal.
And he's in charge of the grain.
And
So-
he's in charge of the grain.
So that's it.
They are in control of Egypt in a span of 6 months. Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, 2 years. 2 years. Okay? This is a far cry from chapter 37 when Joseph's brothers sell him to the Midianites. Right? So we're all okay with what Joseph did?
Yeah.
It's fine?
If he'd have given them the grain, just said, okay, yeah, I'll feed you, they wouldn't have had any seeds left to plant to continue after this was over. I mean, he could have said, oh yeah, fine, I'll open up all the granaries, and because you gave me this stuff, I'll give it back to you. But what good would have that have done? Most people would have been sensible enough to save. If it's a choice between feeding your child and planting the field for the next year, what are you gonna do?
Right. And again, we're talking about grain, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about stuff to make bread with, basically, is what it comes down to. Okay? So, like, it seems counterintuitive to me as a city person to say, I'm going to give you meat if you give me grain. Right? Because in my opinion, meat is food, so just use what you've got and feed yourself.
If you use it up.
But if you use it up, well, you're using it up either way. You're either using it up by eating the meat, or you're using it up to buy the grain, which is going to be used up in the end. But I think that they did this because they know, and we know, bread goes further than meat.
And they have to feed the animals as well.
And if there's no food,
Right.
you're not going to buy grain to feed your...
Yeah, if you can't feed yourself, you're certainly not gonna feed your animals.
Because where's all the water in Egypt?
It's gone, pretty much.
Where's all the water?
Controlled by Pharaoh.
No, controlled by Joseph's family living in the Nile Delta. That's where all the water is. They live in Goshen. They live in the fertile, the best of the land. In Egypt is where all the water is. Sure, you can get water other places, but in the Delta is like fertile, right? So Joseph's family, not worrying about meat, not worrying about water. It says that Joseph gives them the grain, and they don't even have to buy it. They don't become slaves.
Joseph is brilliant.
Joseph
he's
is
taking care of-
brilliant.
Pharaoh, he's taking care of his family, and he's taking care of all the people of Egypt.
Yes, I think people could argue with you to say selling themselves into slavery is not being taken care of. Right? But they are they don't die,
Yeah.
right? That's your other option, is you die. Okay? So there's been, these evangelical people, they've made like leadership trainings off of Joseph's life. Be a leader like Joseph, which is basically a power grab, right, over other people, which I don't know if Jesus is really trying to get us to do in the Sermon on the Mount, right? I think that Joseph received dreams for a very specific purpose, and that purpose is being fulfilled in this chapter, right? Okay, good.
Is there a parallel with Paul Newman and what he does with his Newman zone?
I would say
Tomato
no.
sauce. Tomato sauce.
I would say no, because, and I don't know that story real well. I used to buy that salsa. It was really good.
His workers own the company.
Yeah.
He started it, but everybody has a share in what they're doing in the company to produce the product.
Is Paul Newman still alive?
Yeah, oh,
He's
yeah.
been dead 5 years.
5 years.
I watched him on a talk show
Oh.
one day. And he was.
I didn't know we were gonna talk about this.
The money he made off of all of that stuff
Yeah,
was put to donations.
yeah.
He did not, he says, if I would have kept that and gave what I earned on my movies, I would have been much richer. But he donated all of that stuff.
So buy Paul Newman.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Goes to charity.
All right, there you go.
From
He made
Joseph
it
to
work.
Joseph.
You know,
Yeah, great.
Is there a connection in this also with the Catholic Church?
I would be happy to hear what you think that connection is.
In verse 22 there, only the land of the priests he did not buy.
oh yeah, they said.
For in Rome, the Catholics have a nation of their own. In Rome, the Vatican City is not owned by Rome. It's owned by the Catholic Church, and it's a nation of its own.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I don't know what the connection to this chapter would necessarily be. Just that they didn't sell their land.
So they still own their land.
I
Same as
believe how can I say this in a good way? This is gonna come off harsh. I think that my generation and younger is less concerned about the differences between denominations. And I think that for older generations, that is very, very important to keep that distinction. So when we talk about the Catholic Church as Protestants, it's easy for us to be very negative towards what they've done because we have learned through multiple Reformation services that the Catholic Church did not do what we think that they should have done, right? However, there are a lot of positives to the Catholic Church as well. So the way that I believe Catholic polity works is that the Catholic Church as a whole in the Archdiocese owns the building and the land for the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Archdiocese owns that land. So it's not owned by the specific church body, it's not owned by the people, it's owned by the church. I don't think that that necessarily connects with this chapter, just because the priests in Genesis, that the Egyptian priests, it's like a religious state, right? Like it's owned by the government. And I don't think that that concept is completely foreign to us, that the government would own the building or the land that the church is on. It seems to be a little bit favoritistic towards the priests. I just think that that's the way that the Egyptian religious system worked, is that the priests didn't have to worry about the land because they're worried about the service, right? Which is kind of the situation that churches have when they have a parsonage, right? The church owns the land, the church owns the house, and they allow the pastor, or if you have a teacherage, which is very rare these days, the teacher to live in that house as long as you are serving the people, so that the pastor doesn't have to worry about, well, and every church does it differently, but the pastor doesn't have to worry about the house, he can worry more about what he's doing to serve people, right? So you could take it as, oh, well, look at how Joseph's showing favoritism to the priest, or you can just think about it as this is the way that their religious system worked and it's okay. I would think, because I have a tendency to be a pessimist, have you guys noticed that already? Right? That I would think that this would have more to do with Joseph's wife, because she married into a priestly family, right? Her father was the priest of On. And so you could make that connection as well, that like Joseph's just trying to take care of his family. But the way that this chapter reads, it doesn't read that that's a law that Joseph did. It was more of a, this is the way that Egypt is run, and so it just happened that way. Okay?
I wonder who owns that land today, you know?
Well, it would have been completely reorganized with the fall of the Egyptian Empire. So, it is possible, it is probable that most of that land is owned by the Egyptian government now, because they're all historic sites. Because they're some of the oldest stone structures that are on the face of the earth, right? So if you're going to talk about the old structures, what do we got? We've got Egypt, we've got Stonehenge in England. Have any of you been to Stonehenge? Let me tell you, it is completely not worth it. Okay? You drive on a bus for 2 hours, you get out and see some stones in a field, and that's all you got. There's a couple placards that, there's not even a tour guide. Like, it's no museum, it's just stones. Okay? Don't do it. So you got Stonehenge, you have like Machu Picchu in Peru, and then there's a couple sites in China that are like the oldest. Oh, and that temple in Indonesia or India. It's 4,000 years old or something. Cambodia. Good. All right. Let's finish this chapter. We started a little late, so we'll go a little late today. Verse 27. Thus Israel settled in the land of Egypt and the land of Goshen, and they gained possessions in it, and were fruitful and multiplied greatly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the days of Jacob, the years of his life, were 147 years. And when the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, If now I have found favor in your sight, put your hand under my thigh, and promise to deal kindly and truly with me. Do not bury me in Egypt, but let me lie with my fathers. Carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burying place. He answered, I will do as you have said. And he said, Swear to me. And he swore to him. And Israel bowed himself upon the head of his bed. So what does that mean?
He died in peace.
Okay, that's fine. That is one way to interpret it. However, Jacob is going to talk in the next chapter. Okay, so it probably means he collapsed, fell asleep, was exhausted, was acting like he was dead, and then he revived in the next chapter, right? One of those things, okay? Something like that. So what is Jacob so concerned about?
Where they bury him.
Why?
Because it's not,
It's not his land,
It's not.
and it's also not the promised
promised land.
He wants to be buried in the promised land of Canaan, even though the only thing that they own in Canaan is this little plot of burial ground that Abraham bought in chapter 23, I think it is. Maybe 25, I don't remember.
Is that where his wife is buried?
And that's where Sarah is buried, and that's where
Isaac.
Isaac is buried,
Mhm.
and Rebecca is buried, and who else has died in Genesis so far? Rachel. Where is Rachel buried? She's not buried there. She's buried in Gold Star for the day. Anybody? Where's Rachel buried? There's two names. I'll give you a gold star for either one of them.
It's not Buell.
It's not Buell. No.
Beersheba.
Nope, not Beersheba, but that's a good guess. It does start with a B.
Bizarre. I don't have my.
Not Bethel, although that was really important for Jacob's life. Bethlehem. Right? It was in Ephrath, which is also called Bethlehem or House of Bread. Okay? So you can look that back up in Genesis, and I believe that's going to be between 26, probably 26, 27, 28, somewhere around there. Okay? We'll figure it out. Okay, good. So he swore to him he would take them, and Jacob or Joseph is going to do that. He's going to take his father back to Egypt and bury him so he can be with his fathers. It's a very, very good thing. Okay? So next week, we got through one chapter today because we were so busy talking about farms. Sorry. I think that was fun for
We're gonna plow through next week.
We're going to plow through with an UGH. It's the verb. Chapter 49 gets really, really complicated really quickly. I would prefer to keep it as uncomplicated as possible. It depends on how much we want to spend in poetry and talk about the different forms of poetry and Hebrew poetry and the symbolism there. So what I'm probably going to do is skim over a lot of that and skip a lot of that so that we can get back to the narrative, because I think that's the easiest way to keep it straight. So what I'll do for next week is I'll prepare chapter 48 is prepared. I'm going to prepare chapter 49. If we get to both chapters, that's great. If we only do chapter 48, we'll see how it goes. Sound fair?
Sounds
Clear
fair.
as mud?
Mhm.
All right. So let's say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Sounds good. Thanks for coming. Remember, we've got Luke Bible study on Wednesday nights at 6.